My future mother-in-law says she doesn't want her son marrying damaged goods. Her words, not mine. I honestly can't recall the exact medical term for what I have, but to put it simply, I've got all the right parts, just none of them do what they're supposed to. My uterus can't build up the lining needed for pregnancy, so having a baby naturally is off the table. On the upside, I've never had a period in my life, and I'm 40. At some point, my boyfriend's mom found out about this. I'm not exactly sure how, maybe someone in the family mentioned it without realizing the damage it would cause. My own relatives know about it, and I've told a few people on his side too. Anyway, once she got wind of it, she confronted me. And from there, things went downhill. She flat out told me I wasn't good enough for her son since I couldn't give him children. My boyfriend and I, have already talked about it. Yeah, he was a little bummed at first, but we made peace with it. We're okay. But now she's calling up the rest of the family, telling them not to show up to our future wedding. Her reason? She doesn't want her son marrying someone defective who can't give him what she thinks he deserves, like I'm a broken appliance or something. If she has a change of heart someday, that'd be wonderful. But at this point? I don't want her anywhere near our wedding. I'm genuinely afraid she'll do something to ruin the day. My boyfriend says he loves her, but he's really struggling with the idea of inviting her at all. We're seriously thinking about just skipping the big wedding and going with a quiet civil ceremony instead, maybe just a handful of people who actually support us. Then we'd break the news to her later. Right now, she won't even come over for dinner when we invite her. Honestly, I'm getting worn down. She keeps calling me defective behind my back, and it's exhausting. His dad, though? He's been totally supportive. Most of his aunts and uncles have been kind too. We've even talked about adopting down the road. But of course, she's against that too, because it wouldn't be his blood, and in her eyes, that means it wouldn't be a real grandchild. Anyway, I'm just venting. Thanks for sticking with me. To the person who said she would have found some reason to hate me no matter what, you're probably right. Last night, my boyfriend's best friend came by for dinner. We let him know we might not go through with the wedding after all, just a courthouse ceremony. We explained that his mom was the main reason for that. He started guessing why. He threw out all kinds of ideas, from me being taller than my boyfriend, I'm 6 feet 0 inches, 4 inches taller than him, to the fact that we lived together before marriage. And no, I don't play basketball, and yes, the air is perfectly fine up here. Once we told him the truth, that it's about my condition, he surprised us. He already knew. But even so, he was shocked at how his mom was acting and promised he'd stand by us no matter what. Between that and your kind comments, I've been able to breathe a little easier. I was seriously about to pack my things and leave, to walk away from everything. I didn't want that to be the only option left. My boyfriend's planning to talk to his mom tomorrow night. He's tied up with work tonight, otherwise it'd happen sooner. I'll keep you posted on how it goes. Thanks again. For anyone curious about my condition, I do ovulate, so we still use birth control. The doctor said a fertilized egg could try to implant somewhere unsafe, and that's not something we want to risk. My best friend, who's been by my side since we were 4, offered to be our surrogate if it ever comes to that. But all 5 of her pregnancies had complications, and I just couldn't ask her to go through that again. Quick update, I got 2 texts today ahead of tonight's big conversation. One gave me hope, the other just added more stress. The good one came from my future father-in-law. He told me he's disgusted by his wife's behavior and said he considers me the daughter he never had. He also said his son is lucky to have me in his life. The second came from his aunt. She echoed those same kind thoughts but added that her sister, my future MIL, had already spoken to her, asked her not to come to the wedding, and then threw in a cruel comment about me. She said, why does she even have breasts if she's not going to use them for anything? That one stung. I'm nervous about tonight. My boyfriend asked me not to go with him, he thinks it'll just make things worse if I'm there. So I'll be staying home after work, ordering a pizza, curling up on the couch with the cat, and watching something mindless on TV. And no, that's not a euphemism. Petting my cat actually helps calm me down. It's my little comfort ritual. Follow up, if you read my earlier post, then you know I can't have children. My fiancé's mother couldn't handle that and did everything in her power to destroy our wedding plans. She spread lies, made nasty remarks, and told people not to come. His dad and my fiancé were supposed to talk to her Tuesday night, try to get her to back off. But, she won. I'm not sure what went down or what was said. All I know is my fiancé came home and we ended up having the biggest fight of our lives. After everything we'd talked about before, he suddenly said that he did want biological kids, and if I couldn't give him that, then the wedding was off. I looked at him and said, "That sounds like something your mother would say." And he just replied, "I can speak for myself." We started yelling. It got ugly fast. I threw a few things in a bag and left. I spent the night at my parents' place. I called in sick the next day. Just laid there, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how it all fell apart. We first met when I was 15, just kids back then. We started dating back in high school, and by the time we graduated college, we had already been together for years, almost 2 decades total. We started out as friends and grew into something more. We dated all through high school, went to college together, and moved in after graduation. I've never dated anyone else. As far as I know, neither has he. We held off on marriage for years because it just didn't matter to us, as long as we were together. That changed when my dad got sick. He wanted to walk me down the aisle while he still could. I'm his only daughter. So that became our new goal. I gave about 6 weeks' notice, not the full 2 months I originally hoped for, but still enough time to help train someone new and wrap things up. Enough time for them to find someone and for me to train them properly. After that, I'm moving back to Germany. My dad's German, my mom's American. They met when she was working over there, and that's where I was born. I've still got friends and family there. The same best friend who offered to be a surrogate has a spare room in her house. She said I could stay with her and her family until I get back on my feet. I wish I could end this with some kind of uplifting twist, but there isn't one. His mother got exactly what she wanted. I'm gone. Out of her son's life, and soon, out of the country. Sure, I could move to a different neighborhood or even stay in the same state, but I don't want to. There's just too much pain here. Too many memories. I have a strong circle of people overseas, people who actually care. That's where I'm headed. I've been mocked for a lot of things over the years, from my height to my accent when I first moved here, long gone now. But I never thought I'd be made to feel worthless over something I can't control. Most days, I sound like any other girl from the Midwest, except for this one thing that cuts deeper than the rest. I've learned to brush off the teasing over the years. My height, my background, whatever, those things, I've accepted as part of who I am. If folks didn't like it, that was on them. And I kept moving forward. I keep telling myself that maybe one day I'll feel that way about this too. But right now? It's still way too fresh. Thank you to everyone who's read this far and offered kind words. I know I'm all over the place, I'm just crying and venting. My thoughts are a bit of a mess right now. Anyway, here's a little update from the same day, just a few odd things that happened. First off, thank you again for all the love and support. It really does mean the world. Now, 2 weird things happened today. One made me want to disappear into the floor, and the other was just plain odd. During my lunch break, I had to swing by the grocery store to grab a few things for my mom. As I was strolling through one of the aisles, who do I lock eyes with but the woman who almost became my mother-in-law? Honestly, I don't even know what to call her anymore, so let's just go with Tammy. She caught my eye from the other end of the aisle, turned on her heel, and bolted. Guess she wasn't too keen on having a conversation. Figures. Later, my dad came with me to the house to help pack up my stuff. He's already agreed to act as my point person when the house goes up for sale, just to make sure I get my share fair and square. While we were there, he stayed back a bit, arms crossed, just glaring at my ex. My ex, being a genius, thought it'd be the perfect time to ask if we could have one last time. Right in front of my father. And I just snapped. I yanked my sweater up a bit, yeah, you can probably guess what part of me I motioned toward, and said, "You are never going to see these again. You're not touching them, playing with them, nothing." His face went beet red and he walked right out. My dad, who'd been standing there with that classic "you hurt my daughter, you're lucky to be breathing" look, burst into full-on laughter as soon as the door shut. He looked at me and said, "I can't believe you just did that," and all I could say was, "Me neither." And just for the record, since my dad and I usually speak German with each other, I'm translating all this into English rather than writing it twice. Yep. I basically groped myself in front of my father. New personal low? Maybe. But also kind of hilarious in a twisted way. After that, we headed home for dinner with my mom. Midway through the meal, she casually asked, "What does Carla's husband do again?" "Carla's the friend I'll be staying with in Germany." And that was it for me. That simple, innocent question cracked me wide open. I started sobbing. Loud, ugly, uncontrollable sobs. My dad quietly got up, came over, and carried me upstairs, just like he used to when I was a little girl. And now I'm lying in bed, typing this on my laptop. Before he left the room, I asked him to tell Mom she didn't do anything wrong. I just couldn't hold it in anymore, and unfortunately, she asked the question at the wrong time. A coworker has already offered to adopt my cat, so she's taken care of. As for my stuff, my tennis trophies, old yearbooks, childhood pictures, my dad's going to keep them at his house. He said I might not want to look at those memories right now, but maybe 7 years from now, I'll be glad he saved them. And I think he's probably right. Thanks again to everyone here for the love and support. I'll keep updating if anything major happens, and I'll try to respond to your questions if I can. Here's today's comment update. I officially gave notice at work. And more weird stuff happened. Now I'm back in bed, typing this out with my laptop on my chest. First strange thing? While I was eating lunch, someone sent a dozen roses to my desk. The note said just one thing: "I'm sorry." No name, no explanation. But I recognized the handwriting. I asked my coworker if she wanted to take them home for her little girl. She just shook her head and said, "I know who those are from. I don't feel right taking them." So I tossed the whole thing, flowers and note, right into the trash. I'd planned to give notice the following Monday, but with rumors already swirling, I went ahead and did it a week earlier instead. So I walked in, sat down with my boss, and let her know I'd be leaving, but I'd stay long enough to train whoever replaces me. Turns out my last day will be February 26th. Yeah. How's that for timing? Then, on February 28th, my parents will drive me to Indianapolis. It's about a 4-hour trip, and on March 1st, I fly out to Munich. Carla, my friend from before, lives in Munich, so I'll crash at her place for a bit while I figure out my next move. My hometown's about 3 hours from Munich, closer to Nuremberg, and I've still got family there. So I'll decide in the next few weeks whether to stay near the city with more job options or settle somewhere quieter, maybe Hamburg or Berlin. Germany's big, and I've got time to think. I also stopped by the realtor's office to sign a bunch of documents, giving my dad legal authority to handle the sale of the house. The realtor was kind and said she'd worked with a lot of divorcing couples. I almost laughed. I wasn't even married. That evening, my mom and I sat down after dinner, and she braided my hair. It's always been our little ritual, just the two of us. We've done it for every big moment in my life: when I got diagnosed, before state tennis tournaments, when I left for college, and now, this. It's one of those moments. Later, my ex's best friend called. He said he heard what happened and called it a load of crap. His language was a bit more colorful, but I'll keep it PG here. He invited me over to hang out with his family before I leave. I was always closer to his wife than to him, but still, I'll go. I can't say this enough: thank you all so much. For reading, for supporting, for just being here. I know I ramble and wander into side stories, but this has all happened so fast. A week ago, I thought I'd be picking out centerpieces for my wedding. Now I'm packing to start over in another country. My mom suggested we visit the zoo in Chicago on my last day in the States. We went there right after we first moved to America. She says it would be the perfect way to close this chapter. A full circle kind of thing. It feels like just yesterday I was outside our new house, keeping the dog calm while the movers worked, and a boy and his mom came by with a basket of cookies to welcome us to the neighborhood. Funny how people change. Final note from me for now: someone commented that they were shocked by my ex asking for one last time. Believe me, so was I. That's not who he used to be. If he had been that kind of guy back then, I wouldn't have fallen for him. It's like someone flipped a switch, Simpsons style, and turned him from sweet and respectful to a total stranger. Back in the day, he'd blush just mentioning anything intimate around my dad. And now? He thinks nothing of asking for a final round in front of him. Unbelievable. One of my coworkers told me I should treat the whole thing like he'd died, grieve the loss, accept it, and move on with my life. That someone else will eventually take his place. And while I'm trying to wrap my head around that advice, I also can't help but wonder, why haven't I heard anything else from the two people in his family who were supportive? His dad and his aunt both reached out early on, offering kind words, but it's been radio silence since then. I honestly didn't realize how much influence his mother had over the rest of the family. And to be honest, I hadn't realized how much power she had over him either, not until everything came crashing down. Someone in the comments speculated that maybe he was worried about being written out of the will. I thought about that too, but honestly, his parents don't have much. They make enough to get by, sure, but there aren't any big assets or investments that I know of. Still, maybe there's some secret inheritance or trust tucked away that only real family gets told about. Who knows? Update, this one's heavy. Just a heads up, it involves an incident that left me physically shaken. So tonight, my ex came by my parents' house and said he wanted to talk. I had a sinking feeling I knew what he was hoping for, and let's just say, it didn't play out the way he imagined. We sat down and had a short, tense conversation. He said he was sorry, and I told him I'd be moving back to Germany soon. Emotions bubbled up. He got teary-eyed, and I felt the sting in my own eyes too. And maybe I shouldn't have, but I let him hug me. That moment of vulnerability opened the door to what came next. While we were hugging, I didn't notice his hand sliding down until it was already cupping a full handful of my butt. It took me a second to register it, and when I did, I snapped. I'm 6'0", 163 pounds, and I've spent over 2 decades perfecting a killer forehand on the tennis court. So yeah, I let loose and slapped him across the face with everything I had. My hand is still throbbing. He stumbled backward, eyes wide in shock, and I pointed straight at the door and yelled, "Get out!" with a few choice expletives thrown in for good measure. He lowered his head and left without another word. I heard the car start, pull out, and drive away. And then I just broke down, sobbing. My dad, who, as it turns out, had been standing quietly just outside the room, came in right away. He later told me he'd been listening the whole time just in case I needed backup. And when he saw me crying, he walked straight over and wrapped me up in a hug. And in that moment, while he was holding me tight, I had the completely absurd and slightly horrifying thought, what if he reaches down and grabs the other cheek? I know, completely irrational, but it sent me into this ridiculous mix of laughter and tears at the same time. So there we were, my dad holding me while I bounced between crying and cracking up, and my mom comes downstairs like it's just another Tuesday and says, "I'll make us something to drink." Not long after, my phone lit up. Caller ID, Tammy. Yep, my ex's mom. I didn't answer, but my dad did. I didn't hear what she said directly, but he told me afterward, she threatened to call the police and have me arrested for assaulting her son. My dad told her, "Good luck with that. It was self-defense." He said my ex put his hands on me first, and we have security cameras, we don't, but she doesn't need to know that. She hung up. No cops have shown up so far. Maybe she was bluffing, or maybe my dad's confidence scared her off. Now, look, I'll admit this part. I miss the physical connection we had. He was my first in so many ways, first date, first kiss, first everything. But none of that even comes close to outweighing the betrayal, the cruelty, and the heartbreak he and his mother put me through. I'd rather stay celibate forever than let him touch me again. I should have never let him hug me. I know that now. It was a moment of weakness. A final slip. I won't let it happen again. Thank you for sticking with me through this, and thank you again for all the messages and support. I thought my last update was going to be the last, but of course, this mess just keeps escalating. Hopefully, this will be the final post, at least until I'm safely in Germany and far away from this toxic chapter of my life. It's late. I'm wiped. I'm going to bed. Another update, this time, one mystery's finally solved. Throughout this whole nightmare, 2 things kept nagging at me. Why did he suddenly change his mind after all those years? And how the hell did Tammy find out about my infertility? It wasn't public knowledge. I never told her. But I had a hunch. And yesterday, I got the confirmation. I was downtown during my lunch break. I've been helping train the new girl who's taking over my job. She's sweet, smart, honestly, I would have loved working with her if things were different. While out, I bumped into Derek, an old neighbor and longtime friend of my ex. They've known each other since they were kids, Derek said since my ex was 4, or 7, or something. I forget. Apparently he was a preemie. Anyway. He said he'd heard about the breakup and was sorry to hear it. Then he asked if it had anything to do with my infertility. That stopped me cold. I never told Derek about that. He was more of a casual friend, not someone I confided in. So I asked him how he knew. And then he told me the whole story, from his perspective. So grain of salt, but this is what he said. He and my ex were working on Derek's car. It's an old thing from the 60s. I couldn't tell you what kind. I'm not a car girl. All I care about is that it's blue, it runs, and it's got decent speakers. Anyway, before this, my ex and I had an unofficial sort of proposal. Like, what do you want on your toast, or it might rain today, should we get married? That kind of vibe. But then he decided to do something more formal. So they went to his parents' place because he wanted to ask for this old heirloom ring, been in the family for generations. When he told his mom what he was planning, she apparently lit up, ran upstairs crying tears of joy to find the ring. When she came back down, she asked if I was pregnant. She thought that maybe after 25 years of dating and living together, we'd finally decided to tie the knot because there was a baby on the way. He said, "We already have tiny feet, Milo, our cat." She laughed and said, "No, I mean a baby, silly." And then, God help me, he straight up told her everything. That I couldn't have kids. That I was infertile. That was the moment everything changed. She went back upstairs, returned with the ring, slammed it back into its case, and told him this wasn't going to happen. The next day, she told me I was defective, banned him from marrying me, and started spreading her venom. So yeah. That's how she found out. Straight from his mouth. After hearing all that, I thanked Derek for being honest. He said it was a shame, we'd always seemed like the perfect couple, and he figured my ex was heartbroken over the breakup. I just smiled, told him goodbye, and walked off to get my lunch. And later that night, I curled up in bed and cried into my pillow. Deep down, I think I always knew he told her. It wasn't exactly classified information, but it also wasn't something I ever shared lightly. And knowing he just gave it away like that, hurts more than I want to admit. Now that I've shared this whole story online, I've found that it's actually a lot easier admitting to total strangers that my reproductive system just doesn't work. And weirdly enough, it's been kind of comforting. Thank you, truly, for the support, it means more than you know. I'm flying out to Germany on March 1st. Between now and then, I'll try my best to respond to questions, but I can't promise much. I'll be busy packing, saying goodbye to old friends, revisiting some favorite local spots, those little goodbye rituals that help you feel like you're closing the chapter right. There are restaurants I love that I probably won't step foot in again for years, maybe ever. So, that's one mystery solved, how his mom found out. As for the other one? It could be cleared up if he would just give me a straight answer instead of assuming every time I speak to him, it's because I'm trying to rekindle something. I'm not. Anyway, thanks again for the kind words. Barring any major surprises, the next part of my story will probably come after I've landed in Germany. Update, 2 parts, one good, one not so good. Let's start with the good. I left the States on March 1st and flew to Munich. On the plane, I was seated next to an elderly woman who was absolutely terrified of flying. She was headed to visit her son and his family in Germany. I forget exactly what he does or why he's over here. Anyway, for the entire 9-hour flight, she latched onto my arm in a death grip. Every time the plane hit a small bump or dropped slightly, she clamped down harder. The flight was mostly smooth, but even so, I ended up with a bruise on my arm from how tightly she held me. Thankfully, no claw marks, her nails didn't dig in. Once we landed and cleared customs, she met up with her son and his family. This was before all the serious lockdowns kicked in, so travel wasn't a big issue yet. Then came the reality of quarantine. I'd been staying with my friend Carla and helping her out, tutoring her kids in English, doing chores, and generally trying to stay useful. I had 2 job interviews lined up before I even arrived, but unfortunately, all of them got cancelled once things shut down. My uncle, who lives up in Freiburg, offered to drive down and pick me up, take me back up there for a while. It's about a 5-hour drive. I haven't decided yet. Now, the bad. Apparently, Logan, my ex, isn't handling any of this well. Normally, when my family and I traveled to Germany, we flew out of Cedar Rapids to either Chicago or Minneapolis, then on to Europe. But this time, we drove straight to Chicago and I flew direct. Logan didn't know that. From what a mutual friend told me, he drove out to the Cedar Rapids airport hoping to see me off. When I didn't show, he assumed he got the time or date wrong and just went back home. He even sent a few letters to my parents' place. My mom read one of them to me over the phone, but I made her stop halfway through. Even though we've always been pretty open with each other, even about personal stuff, there were things in that letter I didn't need her hearing. Or me, really. The letter stopped when things spiraled further. He lost his job, not because of quarantine, from what I understand, and eventually wound up in jail. Nobody seems to know exactly what happened, but from what I've been told, he got into a loud argument with his mother that turned physical. His dad had to pull him off her. One of the neighbors must have called the cops, because they showed up and arrested him. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Logan? Getting violent? With his mom, of all people? I would have never believed it. And yet, a small part of me wonders, if he could lash out at her, who's to say he wouldn't have done the same to me someday? It's twisted, but I keep thinking, if he had fought this hard for me instead of against me, maybe things wouldn't have fallen apart. So now I'm just here, lying low, waiting for things to settle. The laptop I'm using is acting up, Carla's son borrowed it, and ever since, it's been wonky. He swears he didn't break anything, and honestly, he's a sweet kid, so I believe him. I hope you're all staying safe and getting through this strange time as best you can. Auf Wiedersehen. Rachel. Comment, May 15, 2020. Thank you again for your kind comments. The woman on the plane really was something. When she first sat down, she leaned over and said "Sh per Kenzie English," which made me smile. Clearly, she meant "Sprechen Sie English?" But her little joke was endearing. I hope she made it back home safely when the time comes. There's a restaurant here in Munich I've been dying to try, but of course, that plan's on hold now. As for Logan showing up at the airport, I still don't know what his goal was. Maybe he was hoping for some last-ditch emotional goodbye. Maybe he thought he could talk me out of leaving. I don't know. I asked my mom to hang on to the letters and send them to me in a few months. I might read them on my birthday, June 26th. Maybe. Depends on how I'm feeling when the day comes. Comment, May 17, 2020. Thank you. And don't worry, your English was perfectly fine. I'd actually been considering calling Logan since I got here. But with everything that's happened lately, I'm not so sure anymore. I mean, I don't even know how to call someone in jail. And besides, he only sent the letters to my parents' house because that's all he knows. He has no idea where in Germany I'm staying, just that I'm here. J. Once this virus nightmare ends, I do plan on visiting the States again. Maybe in 2 years or so. And who knows, by then I might feel ready to see him face to face. Or not. It's just baffling. Like he flipped overnight from quiet, gentle Logan to someone I barely recognize. That change still haunts me. And now I wonder, if we had gone through with the wedding, would there have come a day when he laid hands on me the way he did with his mother? To answer someone's earlier question, I'll turn 40 in July, and Logan turns 40 in December. I've visited a lot of countries across Europe, but oddly enough, Spain isn't one of them. Maybe once I get my life sorted out here, I'll finally book that trip. Thank you again. Stay safe. Edit, Post 1, May 19, 2020. So, I actually spoke to him yesterday. Last I mentioned, he had been arrested for attacking his mom. I still don't know if he was released on bail, or if the charges were dropped. All I know is that for the past few days, he's been sitting out in my parents' front yard. Just sitting there. Doing nothing. My dad was ready to go out there and lay him flat, but my mom, cooler head as always, stepped outside, told him I was gone, and that it was time for him to move on with his life too. She called me afterward to let me know what happened, and that's when I decided to call him. He picked up. Sounded relieved, but also kind of empty. Here's the conversation as best as I remember it. Logan, hello? Me, hey. I heard you've been hanging out in my parents' yard. I'm not there. Please leave them out of this. Logan, I was just hoping the rumors weren't true. That maybe you were still here. That we could talk. Me, I tried talking before, Logan. You used it as an excuse to grope me and acted like sex was gonna magically fix everything. Logan, I'm sorry. I've never been through a breakup before. I didn't know how to handle it. Me, yeah? Well, neither have I. But I'm pretty sure I've handled it a whole lot better than you. I paused. Took a breath. I just need to know, why? Logan, I had to do what my mom said. She wasn't okay with you not being able to have kids. Me, Logan, you're 40 years old. You don't have to do what your mom says anymore. Logan, you don't understand. Me, actually, I do. We talked about this years ago. We discussed all the options, and you were fine with them, until she wasn't. So you tossed everything we built away. Did it mean that little to you? Logan, you didn't have to go. You didn't have to leave. When are you coming back? Me, not for a while. Maybe not for a couple of years. I've got to get my life together here, get a job, find a place. You knew I was leaving. Logan, come back. Please. We can still get married, we can adopt, we'll figure something out. I'm sorry. I'll make it right. Me, I gave you choices before. You ignored them, and me. You let your mom walk all over us. She's been calling me defective to anyone who'll listen, and she's against adoption too. What's changed? Logan, you're not defective. I'm sorry. I can't control what she thinks. Me, no, but you've supported it. You've stood by silently while she poisoned everything. You've known about my condition since we were 19. Now it's suddenly a problem? Logan, I hate that she says that about you. And for what it's worth, I ended up in jail defending you. Me, if only you'd defended me then, back when it could have made a difference, I might still be there. I think that's when he broke. The phone went quiet except for him whispering I'm sorry again and again. And then he hung up. I just laid back on the bed and let the tears come, silent and steady, until Lena, my friend's oldest daughter, knocked softly and told me it was time for dinner. Sorry if this post is a little scattered. Still figuring out how Reddit works. Also sorry if I sound harsh, but when someone throws away a lifelong relationship like it was nothing, yeah, I'm gonna be upset. I hope you're all staying safe out there. Once this pandemic settles down, I'm hoping I can finally start building something new here in Germany. Update, May 25, 2020 Mental health crisis mention warning. I moved out of Carla's this weekend. Her whole family was so kind to let me stay with them, and I'll always be grateful. But when we originally planned this move, it was pre-COVID, I thought I'd have a job lined up, my own place, some sense of structure. That didn't happen. My uncle offered to come get me, and honestly, it felt like the right move. He drove down, spent the night with some friends, and on Sunday, we made the 5-hour drive back to Freiburg. I'm staying with him and his wife now, writing this from their guest room before bed. It's strange being back here. I was born in this town and lived here until I was 15. But even when I'd visited before, it never felt quite like this. The streets feel emptier. Maybe it's just the pandemic. Or maybe it's everything else in my life catching up with me. Either way, something feels off. I've been avoiding writing the real part of this post. I think you can probably tell. But here it is. On Friday night, Logan called me. I still have the same number from Iowa, same phone, same account. So when his old ringtone started playing, I froze. I picked up and, without thinking, blurted, "What do you want?" I realized how that sounded and quickly apologized. He said, "I just wanted to check in. See how you're doing." We started having a surprisingly calm conversation. But then I heard it, screeching in the background. A woman's voice. Is that her? Then him saying, "I'm talking. Leave me alone." It was her. Tammy. Of course. Then she got on the phone. "Leave my son alone. Haven't you ruined his life enough?" I hung up. She must have grabbed his phone because she tried calling me back multiple times. I didn't answer. But I did check the voicemails later. In them, she was screaming. Saying I'd destroyed his life. That he lost his job, though we all knew that was coming a year ago when his company announced it was shutting down. The owner even gave a year's notice and helped people find other work. She ranted about him losing the house, which we sold together after the breakup. She said he got busted for drinking in public. Apparently, he took a couple bottles to the park by the lake and got caught by the police. I'd actually heard that story from a friend already. And yes, she mentioned again how he attacked her, that moment that spiraled into his arrest. And as horrible as this sounds, part of me hoped he'd landed at least one solid hit before his dad stepped in. Then she dropped her favorite word again, defective. Said if she'd known 25 years ago, she would have found him a nice, normal girl. And finally, the part that stopped me cold, she said Logan had been talking about mental health crisis. Saying he didn't see the point of going on anymore. I tried calling back. Every time, she answered, and every time, she resumed screaming. I gave up. Instead, I wrote Logan a letter. I sent it to my parents' house and asked them to deliver it to him. I figured if I mailed it directly, Tammy would intercept it the second she saw my name on the envelope. In the letter, I told him the truth, that I still care about him, and I hope he finds a way forward. But that it's over. There's no fixing this. Not anymore. And now here I am, 4,500 miles from home, stuck in lockdown, sleeping in a guest room, and trying to figure out how to put the pieces of my life back together. Thanks for reading. Sorry if the formatting's off, I think I'm gonna close this laptop and try to sleep now.